You know, the question I get asked most often is, Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Is that dirty enough for you?
And after one hell of a break, welcome to the Containment Unit. I'm Tony.
I'm Lindsay.
And I think we kind of, I know we had a few people listening, so we kind of need to explain what happened.
Oh, they're not there anymore.
I know. They moved on to other podcasts that had 3 subscribers. But for anybody that is listening, because we found out a few people were listening on YouTube, and out of nowhere we started getting more random likes on our Facebook page.
Yeah, and I was looking at that going, are they expecting new content?
And we just decided to take a break because we were trying to do one episode every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And with my work schedule, you taking care of the girls, both girls now in school, it just got to be way too much.
Yeah.
It was tiring, and we were just kind of struggling for motivation after a little while.
There were so many days I was like, I have been up with the girls all day long. I don't have the energy to do a podcast.
So we decided just to kind of take a break, see how things went. And then we started getting more likes on the Facebook page. And I'm like, why?
And before it was like all of our friends. Oh, hey, so-and-so liked it. I know him. I know
there's
her.
There's Jack. There's Monica. There's Dave.
There's Nick. Stuff like that. And then it's like, who's that person? Who's that person? I don't know those people.
The Containment Unit podcast has 3 new likes this week. Okay. And
all of our friends already like it.
So we talked about it, and we decided, well, it's been a while, and what can we talk about? Oh, maybe the biggest movie of 2019. Mm-hmm. So
culmination of 10 years of films and
the last movie review we did was Avengers Infinity Wars.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. So, we did like a couple episodes after that, but that was the last movie that we actually did a spoiler review on. Mm-hmm. So, for this, we're talking about Avengers Endgame, and it's been a couple weeks since it's been out, but still, just to play it safe.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen Avengers Endgame and you're a geek like we are, you must be living under a rock.
Yeah, slackers.
Really, really quick, I have to ask you though, when you were doing the mic checks, were you using our daughter's Harley Quinn headsets?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Because the only other headsets I had were for my iPhone that won't plug directly into our laptop. So I knew she'd brought them home from school, and damn, the quality on those are really good.
Really?
Yeah, they're good, and they really hug the ear. Like, you came downstairs, and I didn't notice it until you walked past again. Oh, shit, who's that? So for Avengers Endgame, now, before we had a tendency to talk about the movie, like, damn near scene for scene.
Right.
Not going to do that here.
Also, it's been a few weeks since we saw it. I don't think I remember it scene for scene right now.
And also, this is, a spoiler review a few weeks after, but also just a discussion on how the film did as a film. But as you mentioned, it's a culmination of a decade, like 22 plus movies.
Right.
So how did it do in that case? So just to start off, overall as a film, what'd you think of Endgame? Do you have a rating 1 to 10? How'd you feel about it?
I don't know if I have a 1 to 10 rating on it because I'm sort of stuck in the middle there, because the first time we saw it, I was all types of hyped up. I was like, oh yay, Endgame! And there was laughter and tears and the excitement that was in the theater that weekend. The way the moment it said Endgame going across, the way everyone in the theater just started clapping and woohooing.
Yeah, the first time we saw it, we've seen it twice so far.
Right.
And the first time, that crowd was into it.
They were active.
Active, and that was a great crowd.
Yeah.
And we'll explain some of the high points of that crowd a little bit later, but continue, please.
But then the second time we saw it, I don't know if it was, because the crowd wasn't as into it or what.
It was only a week later. Like the movie
Yeah.
had only been out for maybe a week.
It was
and 2
the second.
days.
It was the second weekend. Yeah, and I just, I still cried when Black Widow died,
Yeah.
but I don't know what it was about when Stark died. I'm sitting there going, should I make myself cry? I mean, it's sad, but part of me is going, seen it. But don't get me wrong, though. I still loved it. I still think it was really good. But because my initial reaction was so high and my second reaction was so low in comparison, I really don't know where I fall on it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it definitely does
Okay.
make sense. So let me ask you some comparative questions then.
Okay.
How do you think this compares to the other 3 Avengers movies?
I'm trying to think. Okay, I enjoyed Age of Ultron, but it's one of those movies where I kind of don't remember parts of it.
Really?
Yeah.
And you block out bad movies.
And I block out bad movies. So so it's just, and, I love that movie. I mean, there's definitely that part where Cap, lets go of Mjolnir before actually picking, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I'm gibberishing again, but
the scene where they're all trying to lift Mjolnir. And
yeah.
it was clear at that point,
Right, yeah.
that
So-
you hear that little eek, and it's like, oh,
Right.
he can move it.
Right.
Yeah, he just stopped. He could have done it.
But so obviously there's bits of Age of Ultron that I remember, and I love James Spader. And he does the voice of Ultron.
Yeah.
So I do have a fondness for the movie, but parts of it I'm just kind of like, that happened? Oh, okay. I didn't remember. And then there was Infinity War.
Yeah.
So, which I love any movie that is a setup for the next.
Yeah.
That is a direct setup for the next. Because, and some people will be like, oh, I like the second one better or stuff like that. But I'm like, you can't like the second one without also liking the first one, because it sets the tone. It sets the plot, the previous plot. It gets that whole thing running for the second part, unless it's, John Wick.
Which we finally just seen
saw
the first 2 movies.
And the reason why I say that was because John Wick wasn't supposed to have a sequel.
Well, they said that they had intended for it, but they definitely made the first movie as just in case we don't get a sequel, we're going to end this on a definitive note.
Right. Well, this is not a John Wick retrospective. So,
episode idea.
I know. I was thinking that too, but when are we going to get to see the third one?
We'll figure it out. Okay, so continue.
Anyway, but I'm always going to have a soft spot for the very first one.
Yeah.
Because first off, I love Loki.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows that I love Loki, and I love me some Tom Hiddleston. And
me too.
And it was also, I remember the announcement when Joss Whedon to direct Avengers movie.
Oh, yeah.
And my nickname was Buffy in high school, and my group of friends, we all got together because we were all Buffy fanatics.
Yeah, so you're a Whedon girl.
I'm a Whedon girl, and then there are things like Firefly, and I never watched Dollhouse, but the little bit that I saw of it was good. But then I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones were. But anything that was Whedon, I was like, oh, I'm there. And then here's Avengers, here's all these, this diehard geeky stuff right there that you already love. And then it's, hey, Joss Whedon's going to direct it. It's like, yes! And so I always have a soft spot in that. And that's one, for that. So that's one thing that I always watched really closely because of it was Joss Whedon, was his directing style. I was always wondering what little, I know you listened to the script. Was because there were later scripts where Joss Whedon had a hand in it, even if he wasn't the writer. He had the ability to do touch-ups and stuff like that.
Well, when Joss Whedon was tasked with directing Avengers, and then he also did Avengers Age of Ultron, he was basically the godfather of the Marvel films, along with Kevin Feige, whatever, the producer.
Right.
So they let Joss Whedon do punch-up work and rewrites on any MCU movies that would impact Avengers. Even if he wasn't directing, he got to go in and change it so it fit.
Right, yeah. So I always watched, like with the first Avengers movie, I always watched directorial decisions and everything, the way certain shots were framed and stuff. Like one of my favorite shots was actually this one during the Battle of New York where all those creatures are coming down, and the downtown New York is just a madhouse, and everything is, all the buildings are all crumbling and whatnot, and then it's this shot going downward of a busted up car, and the side mirror is down on the ground.
Oh yeah.
And that's how you see the shot of Cap. That's how Cap is framed up, is through this mirror. And I think that's a beautiful shot. And so I loved watching things like that. I know that whenever you watch those movies, you go, oh, that was so a Joss Whedon line.
Yeah.
And so because of the geeky aspects of just who I am and the life that we live and everything, to discover Joss Whedon directing it, no matter how much I love any of the other Marvel movies, any of the other Avenger movies, I'm going to always have to put the first Avenger movie as kind of number one, even if slightly above anything else. So.
And I get that. I can agree with you.
And I have no clue if I answered your question.
No, I asked you how it resonated, with you compared to the other Avenger films.
Right. Okay.
Now, for me, I'm torn.
Okay.
Because I think ultimately I prefer Age of Ultron.
Oh, really?
I just like certain aspects of it a little bit more than the original.
Okay.
James Spader as the voice of Ultron.
I love his delivery on the lines.
Has some of the best delivery. I really liked the fact that they're a team now, so there's a little more camaraderie.
Yeah.
And that's what I like in the second one. I like when they go to Hawkeye's house, his farm. I love that whole sequence there. So before this one, it was like, Avengers was up there. Age of Ultron just barely edged it out. And below them was Infinity War.
Right.
Because I felt like Infinity War was completely disjointed.
I could see that.
It was a 2.5 hour hodgepodge because it was a setup, and because they were having to take all these different movies set in these different areas and find a way to bring them together. So you're bouncing from New York to outer space to Wakanda. It was just a whirlwind, and it felt like, and I think we even made this reference when we reviewed it, it didn't feel like a movie as much as it felt like marathoning a Netflix series.
Right, yeah.
And that's something that they didn't do here. This felt like a really well put together complete film and a complete story. Even when they did go to space or went to other areas, it didn't feel so jarring and so jolting. And for me, this is the most fun that I've had with a Marvel film in quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
And just a lot of fun. And not that I wasn't enjoying the Marvel films. I just had Marvel fatigue. 2 or 3 movies a year for the past decade. Holy crap, I'm kind of burning out.
But you still want to be a loyal fan. And there were numerous ones that we didn't even go see in the theater. We didn't see Ant-Man in the theater.
Ant-Man and Wasp.
Ant-Man and Wasp we didn't see. And we didn't see Doctor Strange in the theater. And I love Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that was one that I've when we finally saw it on Blu-ray, I was disappointed we didn't see it in the theater. But
I just hit myself in the nose with my microphone.
Don't do that. But that leads me into the next thing I was going to ask you.
Okay.
The movie that we saw, like, what, a week before we saw Endgame, Captain Marvel.
Oh, I was like, what did we see before we saw Endgame?
And that's not very good if Captain Marvel's already forgettable.
Right.
Because Captain Marvel is now a point of controversy
Right.
for fans, for geeks in the Marvel universe for various reasons. But some people are saying that she felt tacked on, almost forced into Endgame when ultimately she didn't need to be.
Yeah, she was not a necessity for it. I mean, I have friends who think she was, that, this couldn't have happened and that couldn't have happened. I'm like, there's so many things that could have come into play that could have actually made that happen.
Yeah. And we'll explain this in a minute. A rat was more pivotal to the success of all of this than Captain Marvel was.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not meaning that insulting.
No, yeah.
Fact of the matter, a rat played a bigger role.
Right.
Than a more detrimental role than
Right.
she did. And this is something that you and I have discussed with friends who are diehard Captain Marvel fans already. Captain Marvel is not a tier 1 Marvel character.
She's the death of a comic.
She is not like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. She's not on that hierarchy. She's a few steps down.
Well, she was written to compete with Wonder Woman because, even though I feel like, well, maybe not. I was going to say, even though Marvel has more like important female characters, because you got like Black Widow and stuff like that.
I would say they have more recognizable female characters.
But then DC has, Supergirl, Batgirl, stuff like that. I just feel like maybe it's not so much that they have more important female characters, but they highlighted the female characters more than DC has of late.
Like in the mainstream as well.
Right,
Definitely agree with
I mean,
that.
especially even in Endgame and Black Panther, you would definitely see they put an emphasis on the female.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but the creation of Captain Marvel even just came about because DC had created Wonder Woman. Now they've got one of their big top superheroes that is not a sidekick and is a woman. And they needed to be able to compete with that. So they bring in Captain Marvel and she just can't cut it.
Well, and Carol Danvers is the third Captain Marvel.
Right, yeah.
And she is, in terms of those that have had the title of Captain Marvel, she's the most recognizable, which is why they went with her being the first in the MCU.
Right.
But you have the movie, which there's arguments that Captain Marvel was as successful as it was, not because it was a good movie, which I would say it was good, not great. That's just my opinion, though. But because it was the final chapter before Endgame.
People wanted, they knew she was going to be in there. They wanted to know who she was, trying to, cipher out what type of role she was going to play. Things like that.
So now here's the million-dollar question that has definitely got us into a few disputes and arguments with friends. Captain Marvel, confident or arrogant?
See, I know people who say confident. I personally say arrogant.
I have to agree with you because I don't want to say almost everybody, most of the main characters in Marvel have had a level of arrogance that got them dropped on their ass. Thor, Iron Man, right off the bat, those two.
The whole point of the first Thor movie was the fact that he was arrogant and got dropped on his ass.
Yeah.
He was all, I'm Thor, the god of thunder, son of Odin, and I'm going to go kick some Jotunheim butt. And Odin came down and said, the hell you will, and took away his hammer and grounded him to earth.
Yeah. made him learn a lesson.
Yeah, it made him learn a lesson. He had to become worthy. And that was actually something that I did enjoy. I know that they put a joke in there in Endgame whenever he's waiting for the hammer and then he's standing there. And they've done that before. Even in the serious ones, it's like,
it takes a while.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then, his mom's all like, yes, sometimes it takes a minute. And so then it gets there and he goes, I'm still worthy.
Yeah.
Here he is, he's not been taking care of his people. He's
not been taking care of himself.
Yeah, not been taking care of himself. And to discover that he is still worthy, I feel like was probably the kind of kick in the butt maybe that he really needed to help beat Thanos.
Definitely. And I want to talk more about Thor.
But first let's finish talking about Captain Marvel.
Because Thor is a character that really is aggravating me, kind of frustrating me in the MCU right now. But with Captain Marvel, she never had to learn a lesson.
Right.
And I know she's only been in like 1.5 movies so far.
I wouldn't even say 1.5.
But like, even with Iron Man and Thor, in their first appearances, their arrogance causes them to need to learn a lesson.
Right.
And she was very arrogant in her own movie.
Yeah.
She knows about Earth. They make reference to the fact that her team has been to Earth before,
right,
before she was part of the team, and we know it's when they picked her up.
Right.
But still, they're educated. They're aliens that have been all around the galaxy, and she doesn't seem to comprehend the fact that Earth doesn't know aliens exist.
Right. She even, if you notice the way she talks down to people,
so condescending.
Yeah. Well, the security guard at the very beginning,
outside the Blockbuster.
Yeah, she talks to him. It's respectfully, but it's the way you would talk to a child.
Yeah,
respectfully.
But then when she talks to Coulson and Fury,
it's like, you don't even know what I'm talking about, and then like kind of rolls her eyes at them and then just goes to saunter away with this like nose in the air, like,
I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I could just do this myself, stuff like that. I'm like, holy crap.
And that's what she does.
So arrogant.
And she does that in Endgame.
And
we've even if you haven't seen the movie, we've seen the clips where she's walking off and saying, where are you going? I'm going to go kill Thanos.
And
we're kind of a team here. Well, you didn't have me last time.
Right.
It's like, oh, wow, big swinging dick here, huh?
Oh my gosh.
But it was like she had no wherewithal about the fact that this whole team got their ass handed to them going after Thanos. And she's like, oh, I can take care of it. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
what
really?
And I've heard people say, well, that's just because she's confident. No, whenever you think you can do by yourself what a whole team of people couldn't do and got their asses handed to them, that's not confidence. That is you saying, I can do this better than you could.
Yeah. And I will say that because I wasn't too high on Captain Marvel after her standalone film, I was happy to see that they didn't use her as I originally had heard they would.
Right.
Where she was going to be the one, literally the one, to take down Thanos.
Oh,
in
really?
The end. That was the rumor, because apparently Captain Marvel is supposed to be the Captain America or Iron Man of the next phase of Avengers movies. She's going to be the leader, the central figure.
Yeah.
So they wanted to start her off grand by having her take down Thanos. So at least that part was the rumor.
Right.
Thank goodness that wasn't the case.
And I really don't mind that she's arrogant, because whenever it's this whole thing of she has no flaws. She's nice, she's confident, she's talented, she's heroic, she's all these good positive things. And so if she has nothing to learn and she has nowhere to go, how can we watch this character grow? How can she continue to be intriguing?
Yeah.
If she is already perfect.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that she's arrogant, because it gives us something it gives the character something to aspire to.
Definitely. And it gives her a lesson that and I keep saying a lesson she has to learn, but that's what these movies are.
Right.
It's, you can't truly become a hero until you've learned your lesson.
Yeah.
And
she keeps calling herself a hero, and I'm like, you do great things and you help people, yes, but you still have to learn something.
yeah. And humility is going to be that thing. And I really hope that comes in the next film. Mm-hmm. I have a concern that they're not going to, because they are modeling Captain Marvel to be an icon for social justice warriors.
Right.
And I'm afraid that because of the inherent controversy and the inherent uneasiness of dealing with a SJW character, that they're just going to play it. Oh no, she's fine. We don't have to do anything with her. We don't have to bring her down. We don't have to humanize her. That kind of thing. So, I could be fearing absolutely nothing here,
right?
But it just seems like they're handling her differently.
It does.
Than they are any other characters. And hey, you guys, you have a formula here.
And I feel like the whole bit with her being arrogant was probably unintentional. I think they were actually going for confident, like they wanted her to already be perfect. But where is there for the character go if she's already at the height of where she can be?
And it could have been just an interpretation that we got as an audience from Brie Larson's performance, because she was, for the most part, bland.
But I'm wondering, though, because this is one thing that I said to a friend, was that oftentimes the way lines are delivered, they can be directed that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing of, now you have to say this with arrogance or say it with some pomp, you add something to it, stuff like that. And the fact that the line was written to, some of the lines were written to begin with, like, well, you didn't have me and I'm going to go kill Thanos, the fact that it's written that way, I wonder if she is supposed to be arrogant. Like, were they trying to go for confident, or was it supposed to be arrogant? Yeah. And if it was supposed to be arrogant, are they setting this up for a lesson, or are they seeing that as a manner of perfection?
Yeah.
Of being, well, of course she's going to be arrogant. She's already perfect. She's already got it all.
Well, and there's articles out there that say that Captain Marvel makes a case for being arrogant. And it's just my personal opinion. I don't like arrogance.
Yeah, and the thing is, with my thought process with that, is that whenever you're arrogant, that is the first step to becoming the next villain. Mm-hmm. Because the moment you're arrogant to where you believe that you're in the right, even when you're in the wrong, you're going to believe that you're in the right. Like how Stark was in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
He even straight up had Banner telling him this isn't right, and he still went through and did it anyway.
Yeah.
Ultimately you could say that Iron Man was the villain because it was his arrogance that created Ultron.
Yes.
And so I feel like, that leaves Captain Marvel's arrogance leaves her open to doing something that could create a villain or turn her into the villain, because she's going to decide that even if it's not the right move, in her mind it is. Well, every villain sees themselves as the hero, and she was spouting off even when she was with because that's the thing, she was with the Kree, who turned out to be the bad guys, and she wasn't even questioning it. We're a group of warrior heroes.
Yeah.
At that point she was already defining herself as a hero when she was still even in training. Mm-hmm. So of course she learns that she's in the wrong there, but she hasn't learned to stop and question herself from that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It very much. And I've been doing a bit of research on quotes about humility for a project for work. And I saw one, I can't give you the exact word for word, but it's to the effect of, power without humility is a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
And I just hope that they address that. And she's believe that she's an alien for so long, but
Right.
they need to humanize her.
Yeah.
She's got to be a true blue hero.
Yeah.
Now with Thor,
Which is funny because her blood as an alien is blue. Wasn't it? Yes, it was.
that or green. I don't remember now.
I think it was blue.
But with jumping to Thor,
Okay.
I've been bitching about Thor since Ragnarok.
Right.
Because the character of Thor in and of itself it's a goofy idea. This is like a Shakespearean style Norse god in modern times fighting along these fantastic heroes. So yeah, it's going to be a little corny,
Campy, yeah.
a little campy, and I feel like they really blended it well with the first two Thor movies.
Right.
Then they do Ragnarok, which so many people say, "Oh, that's the best Thor movie," and I'm like, for you maybe, but
Yeah.
I prefer a more serious approach to comedy because Thor Ragnarok was just dumb slapstick.
I wouldn't say slapstick.
There was definitely some slapstick moments that weren't present in the previous
But it wasn't
films.
like watching Three Stooges or anything.
No, but you had Hulk with his naked ass. It was just a lot of it was maybe easy humor. And even in some cases lowbrow humor and just kind of dumb humor. And that unfortunately transferred over to how Thor was in not
Endgame.
only Infinity War, because I think they were gearing him up to join the Guardians of the Galaxy, like in
Right.
the comics. And Guardians of the Galaxy is a little hokey too.
Right.
So yeah, he has to blend in, and I think that's going to be fine. But for Endgame, he was the most ridiculous part of the movie.
I feel like Thor was more serious in Endgame than he was in Ragnarok.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the hokey humor that you see him taking a part in, like when he and Rocket
Yeah.
go back to get the Infinity Stone, right? And he's about to go to distract Natalie Portman's character Jane, to distract Jane, which I'm like, how could she not notice that 5 minutes before he was fit and everything, and now he's
A short, like, cropped beard.
right, and now all of a sudden he's got this long, ragged beard with like it's all
Now he's
gnarled and
Asgardian
knotted.
Jesus,
Yeah.
and
And he's got this like beer gut hanging over.
he's wearing sweatpants and a robe.
And you really think that she's not gonna notice something's wrong
Yeah.
here. And he's like, okay, I can do this. And then all of a sudden it's, no, I can't do this. And he turns and he walks away. It was that hokey and kind of goofy. Yeah, but it was also good for what was going on because it's a stressful situation. And you're going to be like, nope, I can't do it. Walk away. And I felt like it was goofy, yes, but it fit.
Well, a lot of people have said that what Thor is meant to be in this film is the stages of PTSD.
I thought that was supposed to be each one is an individual stage of grief, and his is PTSD.
Well, his is like the full gamut.
Okay.
And I get that, but still, they could have done that without making him the clown.
Yeah.
And he did have more serious moments. I fully agree with that. And like the moment with him and Rene Russo coming back as his mom, I loved that moment, but because of Rene Russo,
Right.
she carries that scene.
Yeah.
And that was the intention of the scene. That was not meant to be a Thor scene. That was meant to be a Frigga scene.
Yeah.
But any other time he's on camera up to the finale, there's a reason why there's memes out there of him being the dude from Big Lebowski. He looks ridiculous, is acting ridiculous.
Well, also Iron Man, Tony calls him Lebowski. Yeah.
Yeah, and the irony of who played Lebowski, and
Right.
he was the villain in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they could have been a little bit more serious with Thor and still gotten the point across.
Yeah.
Because they already had comic relief in this movie with Hulk.
Right.
and Hulk kind of took over the comic relief, and I think they did a better job with Hulk being the comic relief to an extent.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry, I'm just remembering scenes.
well, which one made you?
Whenever they're getting Scott ready to do that first time travel set,
And he keeps going back and forth like old and baby.
But that's the scene I'm talking about. But before that actually happens, and he's in, I forget exactly what Hulk says, and then he goes, "I'm just kidding," and then he's whispering to like Black Widow, "I'm really not kidding. I have no clue what's gonna happen." And then he turns around and gives a big smile and a thumbs up to Scott, like, "Yeah, we're good."
And it's hilarious because he's in Hulk form the entire movie except for one little scene.
Yeah.
And because he has now merged Banner and the Hulk, he's got the brains of Banner and the brawn of Hulk. And he is what was in the comics is the Professor was the code name for the Hulk at that point. It fits.
Well, if you notice also, I like the fact that Banner comes off as being happier.
Yeah. He's happy, the happiest that we've seen him in any of these movies, because he was able to come to terms with things, and that is the stage of grief that Hulk is supposed to be, acceptance.
Right.
But he was still goofy at times, but he wasn't playing up the goofiness, like the scene where he poses for pictures with the kids, and you know, listen to your mom, she knows best. I enjoyed those because he was playing it seriously.
Yeah.
He wasn't hamming it up for the camera to get laughs, which I feel like they did with Thor.
Yeah.
And Hulk all the way through had serious moments, but then they peppered in no pun intended, they peppered in some humor that just, because they played it so serious, that humor was that much better. Like when they go back to New York being Hulk, Cap, and Iron Man, and he's like, you got to get out there and you got to smash along
stuff
the way just to make, because he's supposed to be Hulk.
Well, they have to blend in. And people can't see a Hulk walking around just, hey, hi, what's up? So
he just
Hulk smash.
Trying to be the old Hulk that we just saw run past.
Right.
I thought that was great humor, and he had this wonderful scene with the Ancient One.
Yeah.
At the New York,
which right there, the Ancient One is something to talk about too.
Well, I was leading right in. What were you?
The scars.
Yeah,
on the Ancient One's head.
They haven't explained is that in Doctor Strange, the Ancient One dies from brain injuries.
Right. Yeah.
But before that, she was bald, but completely clean head.
Mm-hmm. Like no blemishes, no scars. Yeah. Have we verified that though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But here, and this takes place in 2012, the Battle of New York, which she even says is 5 years before Doctor Strange becomes a wizard.
Right.
And I loved that part when Hulk shows up. I'm looking for Doctor Strange. Oh, you're about 5 years too early. And
he's doing heart surgery down at...
And it just shows how much she really knows.
Yeah.
And I love that the fact that she was there just defending the building, actually, as we now know, participating in the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
And that scene between the two of them is very, very serious. But I kept getting distracted because she has all these scars on her head. And I'm like, okay, they didn't explain this. How does she have the scars? We know she has the knowledge of what's to come, but why does she have the scars of what's to come?
From when Strange was doing the brain surgery on her.
Yeah.
To try and save her, yeah.
And it was a little distracting, and I think it goes to a kind of a much, I don't want to say bigger problem, because I don't think it's a huge issue, but there's a problem with the way the Russo brothers directed this, is that they're having to answer a lot of questions after the fact. Fans are sitting there going, well, what about this? Well, did this happen? How do you explain this? And they're having to explain this themselves as like, oh, you should have already known that. Oh, that should have already been obvious. And it's like, no, dude,
No, not
it's
really. Not when you don't
So
explain it.
You guys kind of drop the ball here on some of these things. And,
Right.
and some of the things they've had to explain is when Hulk puts on the gauntlet that they've made and does the snap to bring everybody back. The question was brought up, what about people that were like
In
in
planes?
an airplane when they snapped? Are they just going to be put back? And they're like, and the Russo brothers said, well, we always called him Smart Hulk. Like, that was the answer. It's like, well, you see, dumbass, he's smart. He wouldn't do that.
I haven't heard the interview, but I'm sure that wasn't their inflection or anything.
But still, it's just, that was their answer is, well, we've called him Smart Hulk for a reason.
Well, I mean, and I wonder how much of this goes less towards bad writing and more towards what you really see of Thanos's, that it wasn't so much about Thanos wanting to
Thin the herd.
Yeah, thin the herd, and more about his arrogance.
Yeah, his God complex.
Yeah, his God complex. Because he just snaps without even thinking about who he's taking away. And that's why you get Clint going on this warpath, taking out all of these crime lords and these crime rings and everything.
Drug cartels down in Mexico.
Yeah, and then was it Japan?
Yeah, the Yakuza.
Yeah, and you have him going through all these places doing all this stuff because you have these really, really bad people who are just slaughtering other people and causing so much death and destruction that they got to live.
Yeah.
And then you have, like what other people are asking. What if they, snapped out in a plane? What if the pilots were snapped out and
the plane goes down?
The plane goes down. You have all these people who aren't coming back because they weren't snapped out. They just died. What about parents that were snapped out and their children were left unattended?
Yeah. Infants,
yeah. Stuff like that. And you have these parents coming back, discovering that they don't have their kids anymore. And it's just, how much of that is just bad writing and how much of that goes towards Thanos' God complex?
I would say it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because the next thing that they tried to explain off after the fact is that Steve was always Peggy's husband.
Okay.
And because we see at the end that, Cap never returned from putting all the stones back, and he instead went back to the 40s, got married to Peggy, and lived a nice, happy life. And they're saying that was always how it was supposed to be. But that doesn't make sense because we've seen evidence of Peggy lamenting the loss of Steve even after being married.
Right.
And you can't chalk that up to, she was putting on an act.
Yeah.
How were they together for probably 60 years? And nobody went, that looks like Steve Rogers.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't make sense for that to have always been the case.
Yeah.
Nor does it make sense that he would go back in time, change something, and show up on that bench, because they've already said that what you do in the past doesn't affect your future. So they've heavily implied the branch time travel mentality.
Right.
That he would have lived in a branched off reality where he lived with Peggy. So the Russo brothers are really trying to backpedal on some things that were just glaring inconsistencies. And they tried to make light of what time travel is in the movies. It's like, you're telling me Back to the Future is bullshit? It's like, yeah, the reason it's bullshit, no movie has ever done time travel physics and time travel theory justice. I remember that people were praising James Cameron for his time travel in the Terminator films. And I know that there was articles about other directors having conferences with him because they have time travel in their movies and they want to make sure it's as good as his. It's like, no. Skynet is trying to prevent their own existence.
Yeah.
They're trying to create a paradox. If you really look at the time travel scenario of Terminator, makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
Just like here, the time travel that they tried to say they got actual physicists to explain it to them is still bullshit.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
But we do get a nice Loki spin-off series from it, though.
We do. And that is a branching timeline.
Yeah.
Because the Ancient One says that, if you take one of the Infinity Stones away, it branches off. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
Loki did what he does every single time he's killed off in the Marvel Universe. He comes back and steals that Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
And that has actually been shown where he's killed off in Thor with, quotation fingers.
Right.
Killed off in Thor, comes back and steals the Tesseract. Then he's killed off again with bunny rabbit quotation fingers in Dark World. And then in Ragnarok, he takes the Tesseract again.
Right, yeah.
And now he's killed off in Infinity Wars, and in Endgame runs away with the Tesseract.
That's not a Tesseract, it's kryptonite.
But it really does, and that is something that I will say is good, that they're able to use that to set up the Loki series that we knew was coming.
Right.
Which now there's indications that maybe Chris Evans is not done as...
Playing Cap,
as he's been saying, and that he may make a guest appearance on the Loki series because they have to deal with the Tesseract having to be put back at some point. So going to be interesting to see what they do there. But let's start gearing towards the end of this.
well, we never talked about, we started it, why the rat was more important than Captain Marvel.
Thank you. So everybody's like, well, if Captain Marvel hadn't saved Tony and Nebula, anybody could have.
Well, what I was expecting, and other people were speculating this too, this is where I heard about it, I'm like, ooh, that makes sense, was a lot of people were expecting Pepper to show up as Rescue.
Yeah.
And
because we had seen promo shots of her armor from the comics.
Right. And so people were expecting her to show up as Rescue and get Tony and Nebula back to Earth.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, there you've got an explanation right there as to how that could have happened. So
yeah. So it wasn't necessary for Captain Marvel to do it.
And it would have been so romantic.
Exactly. But none of the time travel, none of going back to get the Infinity Stones, none of that would have been possible had it not been for a damn rat crawling through Scott's van in storage,
Right.
and inadvertently triggering the machine to pull him out of the quantum realm.
Because he's the one who came with the idea of let's time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he realized, oh God, I've been in there 5 years. It was 5 hours for me.
Right.
And I thought that was a very good way to bring it about, because it wasn't just pulled out of their ass. They had a great way of, we're going to set this up in this movie to use it over here.
Right.
And I really liked how they pulled that off.
And also there was people were saying that when Thanos' ship is firing down on all of them, and then all of a sudden all the cannons shoot upward, and they're like, oh, it's firing, they're firing at something that just came in through the atmosphere, and it was Captain Marvel. You know, everyone's like, no, they sorry, I'm stuttering. Nobody else could have done that. You know, they're saying it had to be Captain Marvel, except for the fact that the what were they called? That Zond. I almost fell backwards. That Yondu. That Yondu, the group of people that he was part of.
the Avengers.
Yes, something like, yeah. I keep wanting to say Reavers. I'm like, that's Firefly. And
now if the Reavers showed up at the end of this film,
everybody would have died. But the Ravagers.
Ravagers or something. Close enough.
Okay. That you told me at one point that apparently they were actually in the upper atmosphere having their own battle with Thanos' ships that were up there.
Yeah.
So why couldn't one of the Ravager ships have been,
kamikaze suicide mission and
right? I mean, granted, one ship isn't going to have the impact of Captain Marvel because she's that engine or whatever. So multiple ships could have been like, dive bomb the mothership or whatever and come through. And
and here's the question people have been asking, which, hey, Russo brothers, no answer yet. If she could do that and take down that big ass ship, why couldn't she just blow a hole through Thanos?
Right?
Really, that would have. She does that to a ship, but then she actually gets into a fist fight with Thanos. It's like you're missing something here.
Right.
What you just did there, you could do here, and the movie's over.
Yeah.
But with that final battle, the only complaint that I will give is that at one point there is too much going on.
Yeah.
When Cap starts hearing Sam and that beautiful throwback on your left, and then all the portals start opening. There's so many people coming through that you miss the Ravengers coming in with their ships.
Right. Like you mentioned that to me after we saw it the first time. So the second time I tried to keep an eye out for it and I couldn't see it.
Yeah. And you miss that there's Asgardians coming in. You miss all of these different people that are showing up because they're focusing on Wong. They're focusing on the Wasp.
I feel like you see the Asgardians coming in though because they focus on Valkyrie and Valkyrie was heading up the Asgardians.
Well, she was more heading up. Now again,
she was living in New Asgard.
No, I understand that. I'm saying she was on her Pegasus. Was she the only one?
No,
Okay.
She had a lineup of people behind her.
On Pegasus, though. On other Pegasi, whatever. Was she the only one on a Pegasus?
Yes.
Okay, that I couldn't remember. Because I couldn't remember if she had recreated the Valkyries.
No,
Okay.
If she was the only Valkyrie. Yeah.
But still, you miss a lot because of how much is going. And then the final battle just turns into a big cluster muck, and it's dark, and it's easy to miss some of the stuff that's going on there. And one thing that we missed that I didn't even register the first two times we've seen it, they had a very poignant moment where they're trying to keep their Infinity Gauntlet away from Thanos.
Okay.
And Peter now has it. And we finally get to see Peter say, activate instant kill. After he's like, oh God, turn it off. He turns it on and kicks ass with it.
Right.
And Captain Marvel has to come and save him real quick. And then all the females of the MCU show up. And it's a very poignant moment. It is very much meant to be girl power.
The first time we saw it in the theater, there was a woman behind us going, yeah, get the women in there. Something like that.
Yeah. Where the hell was Sif?
Yeah.
That upsets me so much.
That was something that bothered me about Ragnarok, was that they have her mentioned briefly because of the little play that Loki's having going, commemorating his own death and everything. And then after that, it's just there's no mention of her. There's no was she killed by Hela? There's nothing talking about where she is, where she went. Nothing.
We see the rest of the Warriors 3 get taken down, but we just don't. There to this day, there's been no word that I've read on where the character is supposed to be.
Yeah,
and you would think for this final battle, especially when they're getting a girl power moment,
right, that
we would see her finally show up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was such a missed opportunity for such a good character that they just kind of threw by the wayside. And I know she's got a TV series, but you're telling me that for her to be in that scene would have been more than 2 days work tops.
Right.
No, they seriously just dropped the ball on that character.
At least give a throwaway line. Like, even back in Ragnarok, they could have just said, "Oh, we found the remains of Lady Sif," something like that, to explain that Hela did kill her, so you know why she's not there.
She's dead and gone. Don't expect her.
Right? Yeah.
But with this final battle, I don't think we really need to get into the death of Iron Man too much.
Right.
But I think it's hard to deny that this final battle had the best part of the movie.
Okay.
And Thor is taking on Thanos.
Oh, yes.
Getting his ass kicked when out of nowhere Thanos gets smacked upside the head by Mjolnir.
Right.
And it flies back. And they did a very, very purposeful shot of Thor dropping Mjolnir. And you see them zoom in on Mjolnir just for a second.
No, I looked for that in Endgame. It wasn't Mjolnir that he dropped. No, it was the axe.
He dropped both. He dropped the axe and Mjolnir.
But it's the axe that's focused on.
I would swear on our children that they do a shot on Mjolnir.
Okay.
On, handle side up, just sitting there for a second. Mm-hmm. Just to get the audience to go, what are they doing with that? Okay. Just to get it in their minds. Because then you see it fly, and you're like, was Thor able to put his hand out and summon it, and we didn't see it?
That's what I had thought. I thought that he was summoning it, yeah.
And then it flies back, return to sender, right into Cap's hands.
Yeah.
And when we saw it at that first theater,
the theater erupted. It freaking exploded. It was fantastic.
And apparently that is a commonality amongst theaters when that came out.
Oh, really?
That was the moment where audiences blew up.
Yeah, there was one guy in our theater who was like, "Yeah, hit him again!" People get so active.
Yeah, and it was just I was like, everybody cheering, and this guy's like, "Hit him again, hit him again!" And I just went, "Shut up! Let us watch this." But
and then Thor going, "I knew it!"
And we knew it too. We got the confirmation that has been speculated since Age of Ultron. Yeah. Could Cap actually lift the hammer and just chose not to?
Yeah.
Or as you say,
he didn't want to steal his thunder.
Ba-dum-tsh.
I love that I actually thought of that joke before I saw the memes for it. I'm like, see, I'm not the only one who thinks like that.
And apparently that's another thing that the Russo brothers have come out and said, is that they've operated the whole time they've been directing Marvel films, they've operated under the idea that Cap has always been worthy, but was just nice enough not to lift the hammer.
Of course he's always been worthy. I feel like that was always,
Well, and that's straight out of the comics, too. Yeah. Because Thor, at one point in the comics, has to put a will together.
Yeah.
And he bequeaths Mjolnir to Cap.
Oh, really?
Knowing that of everybody he knows, Cap is the only one worthy to carry Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And we finally get to see it. And not only, they could have just had that one shot, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And the audiences would have had their joygasms and been done with it. But we see that Cap's paid attention.
Yeah, he knows how to use it.
He knows how to use it, and he's swinging it around, spinning it around like Thor did, and he's mastered it already.
How much of that is just because he's watched, and how much of that is because part of the super soldier serum that he took that allows him to know how to use the shield?
Oh, and that is very much because part of the super soldier serum is that it not only heightened his physical abilities but his mental.
Right.
And he's a strategist.
Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make. I don't know words.
But I definitely agree. I think it's a bit of both. He could probably see somebody use a weapon once. Okay, right. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
But he basically takes over Mjolnir for the rest of the fight.
Well, there's even that one part that I absolutely love whenever Cap and Thor are using the hammer and the axe, and they end up coming back to opposite owners, and then Thor just looks at him and goes, "Here, you take the small one." and tosses it back to him.
The small one, I know so many geeks that are just like, I would take Mjolnir any day over that thing.
Right.
But, and then there's the iconic moment that fans have been waiting years to see. Cap finally getting the full line out. Avengers Assemble.
Mm-hmm.
And just before that, he calls back Mjolnir and just grabs it and it's just like, it fit. It didn't look awkward. It looked like he's always had Mjolnir. That's just the way it just, okay, it's yours.
Right.
And when he finally gets that line out, Avengers Assemble, you could hear...
And to me, it was like kind of like a sigh of relief almost. Like,
yeah.
Okay, because that right there tells you this is it. This is the end. They've avoided saying it all the previous movies.
Yeah.
And now it comes out. It's like, okay, so this is where it's that moment of acceptance. You know, this is where it's really ending.
Yeah.
You know.
And now the fact that moving forward, we're not going to, clearly not going to have Iron Man.
Right.
Not going to have Cap anymore. I kind of sit back and I honestly wonder, will the next phases of Marvel films live up to what's come before?
Yeah.
Because I feel like with such mainstream recognizable heroes as Iron Man and Captain America, that is what brought in casual audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe they're branching off a little too much into third tier titles with Captain Marvel, arguably Doctor Strange, stuff like that, that it's still going to be successful, but not to the heights that they're at right now with Endgame approaching the mark of being the highest grossing film in history.
Yeah.
It's just got to beat out Avatar. And I hope it does. Because I think the highest grossing film of all time should at least be good.
Okay, so we've been trying to kind of get to a closing point here for a bit.
You don't want to go for another hour like we used to?
So before we start giving our final ratings, stuff like that, what do you think we'll see coming up, but what would you like to see, like a dream project? What if they were to say, hey, what do you want us to do? What is something that you would want to see?
For Marvel, that's kind of hard to say because I've either seen it or they've made it clear that it's not going to happen.
Okay.
I was really hoping to see Bucky get the shield and Bucky become the next Captain America after Steve, like in the comics. In this case, though, Steve didn't die. He just grew old and passed it on.
I feel like this was because the shield gets passed on twice, and I feel like they just simply skipped that first one and went straight to the second one.
And it's just because I like the character of Bucky, and I've liked Sebastian Stan's performance.
Yeah,
that's what I was kind of hoping for. What I would like to see, I think we're gonna get in the Marvel TV shows that are going to be on Disney Plus.
Oh, the What Ifs?
Well, because we've got the What If. There's going to be that What If series where each episode is a standalone story. And it's what if this happened instead of this? And episode 1 is what if Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum instead of
Steve.
So I love Haley Atwell as Agent Carter. I'm looking forward to that.
Right.
But we're also getting Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're also possibly even going to get a She-Hulk series.
Oh, really?
That's something that they've been talking about. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but the early speculation from insiders is that Mark Ruffalo is signing on to appear as Hulk in a She-Hulk series to introduce the character of She-Hulk and then transition to the series just being about her, and then Banner goes off to do whatever he wants to do.
Right.
With what we have now in the Marvel universe, I just want to see another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And we've got Far From Homecoming, and those trailers are fantastic. And Mary Jane is not Mary Jane, Michelle MJ.
There were people who didn't like the fact that she's not a redhead, stuff like that. I'm like, I don't care about that. The one thing that bothers me is they changed her name.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand. You're calling her MJ, yeah, but now you've established in the first movie that her name's Michelle, but everybody knows that MJ is Mary Jane, so why change the name?
I don't care that she's not a redhead. And there's people that are like, well, she needs to be white. Well, you're a racist idiot. I'm just a little like taken, not taken aback, but I was a little like thrown off by the way they gave her character model to a completely different character in the first Spider-Man movie, because Mary Jane has always been
like the cool girl,
the gorgeous girl that is like 5 levels above Peter.
Oh, Zendaya is so 5 levels
she
above.
is, but not Michelle,
right?
And so the character, I mean, I think from what I've seen in pictures of the new film, they're definitely kind of doing her makeup different. They're making her that, something that Peter's going to drool over.
Right.
But Mary Jane has always been that knockout that everybody just looks at her and goes, why are you with him?
Yeah, she's the most popular girl in school, stuff like that. Yeah.
And that was the girl that he was pining after in the first movie, who was the daughter of the Vulture. So we're getting more Spider-Man movies. That's what I want to see. We're going to get more Loki. That's what I want to see. Hopefully we get another Doctor Strange movie and another Black Panther movie. But apart from that, like, if we get another Ant-Man, okay, whatever, I'll watch it. It'll probably be enjoyable. I really liked Ant-Man and Wasp more than I did Ant-Man.
Oh, really?
I'm not too gung-ho on another Captain Marvel film. I mean, I'm gonna see it,
right?
But that's another reason why I'm kind of like, where are they going to go from here? They kind of just blew their load on 22 films, 10 years, and they went out on such a high note.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And okay, same question for you. What do you want to see, or what would you love to see?
I love Spider-Man, and so I know what I would love to see, but I don't think it's ever gonna happen, because
let me guess. It would require somebody from the Fox merger to show up in Spider-Man.
And I would love to see Spider-Man Deadpool.
Yep.
I want to see Spider-Man Deadpool so much, because the way they interact in the comics is hysterical. But one of two things would have to happen. They'd have to be willing to make a Spider-Man movie that was rated R. A movie with Spider-Man that's rated R. Or... I think this would be the best way to go, and it would be hysterical. Have it still be PG-13, and anytime Deadpool goes to drop the F-bomb and it bleeps, he starts going, "What the?"
I would love to see it. They have to do it though, as they do it in the comics, where like Peter comes home and Aunt May thanks him for doing his chores. But he knows he didn't do them.
Right.
And then he goes to his room and there's a note from Deadpool saying that he did his chores for him. Like, Deadpool is so fascinated by the innocence of Spider-Man that he helps him out and like does his chores when he's out doing stuff.
Even just have that one moment whenever Deadpool gets the chance to was it a wish or something like that? I forget what it is. And he gets to call upon his one true love or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, I want my one true love," and then it's Spider-Man that pops up, and Spider-Man's like, "What am I doing here?"
Well, with Spider-Man though, we are getting the multiverse.
Yeah, we are.
We might get Miles Morales. We might get to see Spider-Man 2099 show up.
Are we gonna see Spider-Ham?
I hope not. Then again, if they do it how they've done Rocket, who is one of my favorite characters in the MCU right now,
right,
I'll go with Spider-Ham showing up in the MCU here.
Right. But I would also love to see, I'm disappointed that Gwyneth Paltrow has said that she's done.
Okay.
Because I would love to see interactions between Peter and Morgan Stark.
Yeah.
You kind of see the big brother thing, the big brother relationship. I would love to see something done futuristic, like Morgan's going off to college and she's doing an internship at Parker Industries.
Yeah.
And everything. And you see this like camaraderie that's between them, and he really sees her as this little sister.
I think that would be great. And we kind of missed out apparently on some a little bit more scenes with the character of Morgan from Endgame.
Okay.
Because there was supposed to be a scene that mirrored the scene from the previous Avengers film between Thanos and young Gamora at the end, where he goes up to her and she says, "Did you do it?" "Yes." "What did it cost?" "Everything." They were supposed to have a scene like that, but with Tony and teenage Morgan.
Oh, really?
So having her go the reverse. And that's something that, if I understand correctly, they filmed.
Oh, really?
So hopefully we'll see it on the Blu-ray. But you were talking about a disappointment in Gwyneth Paltrow not being part of it. There is a disappointment that I had with Endgame. And I know that this is definitely no way it could have happened, but I wish they could have pulled it off. During the battle, I really wish that they had used this as the opportunity to introduce the X-Men.
Yeah.
Because of the changes that have been made, and
Disney buying Fox, stuff
Disney,
like that.
Finally buying Fox out, and it happened during the production, so they could have come in last minute, done some reshoots, but I would have loved for just a quick surprise appearance, where during the fight, Thanos gets the gauntlet on and goes to snap, and before he can, 3 blades just shoot through his palm and keep his hand open, and it pans over and there's Hugh Jackman with the mutton chops, and he just goes, "I don't think so, bub." I think fans would have freaked out more than Cap grabbing Mjolnir.
Yeah.
But then there was people praying for this to be an end credit sequence, which we didn't get with Endgame. But if they had done this, I think I may have peed my pants laughing in the theater, where it just goes to the battlefield. After everything's said and done, some of dead bodies are there, and Deadpool runs in. And it's just Ryan Reynolds going, "Sorry, everybody, I made it. The merger took longer than we expected, but I'm here and I'm ready to..." Son of a bitch.
That would have been funny.
That would have been great.
That would have been funny.
Because they could have used this. They use this as a way to promote Captain Marvel and thrust her into the limelight of the MCU.
Right.
But they've got X-Men now. And they're going to reboot X-Men because Dark Phoenix is ending this X-Men series.
Right.
But we already know that they've said, hey, we're not touching that.
Right.
They can keep doing Deadpool the way they want to do it. They really could have just brought him in for a second. Fan service, nothing but it would have been beautiful.
Right.
All right. So let's go ahead and do the wrap up. I know you were having difficulty earlier. Do you think you have a number for it? Like because I remember you gave Infinity War an 8.5.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh. I guess, okay, if I gave Infinity War an 8.5, then this one I'm going to have to go with 9. Because I was going to say 8, but then when you said I did 8.5, I was like, oh, I mean, maybe I need to rethink my process. So I'm going to go with 9 because I did like it better than Infinity War. So
I'm going to agree. I'm leaning towards 9. I would say that Cap grabbing Mjolnir was like a 9.5. Pushing a 10.
That was an 11. That moment all by itself.
I will say though that, again, most fun I've had in a Marvel film in a while.
Yeah,
because of
definitely.
my Marvel fatigue.
Yeah.
I think that there's definite arguments to be made of this being the best Avengers film, but not the best MCU film.
Okay.
For me, it's still the Cap movies.
Yeah.
It's still Winter Soldier, First Avenger, Civil War, in that order.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel film by a long shot. But this was just, I was so happy with the way they did it. It was emotional where it needed to be. The death of Black Widow.
Oh my goodness.
Such a heartbreaking scene.
I bawled like a baby. It was so good.
And I just love the interactions between Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner. You know, just they work well with each other.
Right.
But ultimately, I can't wait to see it again. You know, just talking about this, I'm like, ooh, how long until it's out on Blu-ray? And hopefully they'll bring back the Marvel one-shots. So
that would be great to
see what Cap did when he returned all the stones.
Yeah.
And how he reacted finding out that Red Skull was the guardian of the Soul Stone.
I've wondered about that because after Black Widow dies and Hawkeye comes back and he's like, well, you go tell that to the red-faced guy who was guarding the stone, and it's like Cap is right there and he has no clue that that's Red Skull. So I thought it was funny.
All right, so we think we're going to try to do this again. We're not going to go once every 2 weeks.
No.
Maybe once a month. You know, when we can find time. We've got vacation coming up next month, so I think we're just going to kind of put together an episode when we have a topic and we have time, and just I want to have fun with this. I don't want to feel stressed to get an episode out, kind of like we did before.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's been 2 weeks. We need to get out an episode. Yeah. No.
But all of these are going up on YouTube, and apparently the customary thing is hit that like and subscribe button. You know, hit the bell so you're notified when we have a new episode, you know, once a month.
If that. Probably the next review that we do, though, will be Far From Home. Spider-Man.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But it's going to be a bit because it comes out while I'm out of town.
Well, we talked about how we might do it where you take the girls to see it and I see it while, you know, you're in Texas for the tail end of the vacation. I've got to come home from work, so I've got to cut my vacation short.
Right.
We'll see it the same day, just separately, and then talk about it that night on the phone.
Do you really think I'm going to be able to pay attention to the movie with a girl on either side of me?
If it would make you feel any better, I'll go with a girl on either side of me.
You know what I mean? One of our girls. Smart ass.
Yeah, very much so. So Spider-Man Far From Home, I'm really excited to see that. Definitely probably going to be the next movie we see, because I don't see us getting to see John Wick anytime soon.
No,
Looking forward to seeing that.
Me too. Finally saw the first two movies.
John Wick 4 confirmed for 2021.
Yeah.
So I'm just amazed how we've got to do a John Wick retrospective once we see the third film. But all right, so we'll see you when we see you.
Later.
What just happened? Please tell me nobody kissed me.